In a time when Africa stands at a crossroads, torn between a past marred by colonialism and a future still uncertain, one voice cuts through the noise. That voice belongs to Ibrahim Traoré, the young, defiant, and unwavering leader of Burkina Faso. His latest call was not just to his people, but to the entire West African region, and especially to ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. ECOWAS. It's time to rise, he declared. But what does this message really mean? Why now? And what is at stake? Traoré's statement was not just a political address. It was a wake-up call. A cry from a generation that refuses to remain in the shadows of foreign dominance. A declaration from a youth-led revolution that's demanding dignity, justice, and sovereignty. For years, ECOWAS was seen as a beacon of unity created to foster economic growth, peace, and solidarity among West African nations. But over time, that promise has faded. In the eyes of many Africans, ECOWAS has become a tool for foreign interests, quick to sanction struggling nations, but slow to defend their sovereignty. Traoré's voice is challenging that. He's asking, where is ECOWAS when external powers meddle in African affairs? Where is ECOWAS when foreign troops remain on our soil long after their welcome has expired? Where is ECOWAS when African leaders are punished for choosing independence? When Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger took bold steps to end foreign military presence, they were met with condemnation, not support, sanctions, not solidarity, isolation, not unity. But Traoré is not backing down. Instead, he is flipping the narrative. He is telling ECOWAS and all Africans that this is the moment to reclaim our destiny. His voice echoes the cries of Kwame Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara, and Patrice Lumumba, leaders who dreamed of a truly free and united Africa. Traoré is not asking ECOWAS to abandon its mission. He is demanding that it return to its original purpose, defending Africa, empowering its people, and standing against neocolonialism in all its forms. He's asking for a bold shift in vision, from a bureaucratic body to a revolutionary force. For good, from a passive organization to a defender of Pan-Africanism, from being divided by foreign interests to being united by African pride. And his words are not falling on deaf ears. Across Africa, young people are rising. They're listening. They're awakening. They're no longer afraid to question the old order. Social media is flooded with messages of support. Streets in Ouagadougou, Bamako, and Niamey carry chants of African unity. The youth see Traoré as one of them, a leader who speaks their language, shares their pain, and carries their hopes. But with great words come great responsibility. Traoré knows that awakening the spirit of Pan-Africanism is only the first step. Building alternatives to foreign economic systems, strengthening intra-African cooperation, and ensuring security through African-led solutions, these are the real challenges ahead. And these challenges must be met not by one nation, but by all. He is not asking for violence. He is not inciting war. He is calling for dignity, for justice, for unity, for freedom. This message to ECOWAS is not a threat. It is an invitation to evolve, to reimagine what West Africa could be, to defend its sons and daughters, to stand up not against each other, but together, against exploitation. If ECOWAS can hear the voice of Traoré, if it can reconnect with the pulse of its people, it can rise. It can transform. It can lead. But if it remains shackled to outdated policies and foreign dependency, it risks losing the faith of the very people it was meant to serve. So now, The question is no longer about Traoré. It is about ECOWAS. Will it rise with its people? Asterisk, or will it fall with its silence? Asterisk, one thing is certain. Africa is changing. The winds of revolution are blowing. The youth are awake. And the voice of Ibrahim Traoré is echoing loud and clear across the continent. History is watching. In a bold and unprecedented move, 3 young African leaders, Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, Assimi Goïta of Mali, and Abdourahmane Tiani of Niger, have drawn a new line in the sand. They call it the Sahel Alliance, but this is more than just a regional pact. It's a revolution, a rejection of foreign control, a declaration of independence, a symbol of Pan-African rebirth. Asterisk, for too long, the Sahel was treated as a forgotten zone, a place associated only with poverty, war, and terrorism. But that narrative is being rewritten by these 3 defiant leaders who refuse to accept the labels imposed on them. Asterisk, what unites them? Not just geography, but vision. Asterisk, a vision for a self-reliant, sovereign, and secure Africa. A vision rooted in dignity, not dependency. In unity, not division. In truth, not manipulation. Asterisk, this new alliance was not formed behind closed doors. It was born in broad daylight in the eyes of their people. And its mission is clear. Asterisk, to protect their nations, empower their economies, and remove the chains of neocolonialism once and for all. Asterisk, together, they are building a defense pact where an attack on one is an attack on all. No longer will foreign powers dictate the security terms. No longer will African soldiers be pawns in foreign-led operations. Asterisk, for the first time in decades, African leaders are declaring, "We will defend our land with our own hands." Asterisk, but the Sahel Alliance is not just about military power. It's about rewriting the economic playbook, too. From abandoning the CFA franc to investing in regional trade, agriculture, and energy, this coalition is working to build a Pan-African economy that serves its people, not its exploiters. Asterisk, critics call them rebels. The West calls them a threat. But the people call them heroes, and for good reason. They've taken enormous risks, facing sanctions, media attacks, and economic sabotage. But they continue to stand tall because they know what they're fighting for. Asterisk, a continent that is tired of begging, tired of waiting, tired of watching its resources enrich others while its own children suffer. Asterisk. And it's not just the Sahel watching, it's the entire African continent. Asterisk, from Kinshasa to Khartoum, from Accra to Addis Ababa, Africans are asking, asterisk, could this be the beginning of something bigger? Asterisk, could the Sahel Alliance evolve into a broader Pan-African front, one that includes Guinea, Chad, and beyond? Asterisk, could it become the foundation for a new African Union, one built not on Western approval, but African principles? Asterisk, Traoré, Goïta, and Tiani are not just names anymore. They are symbols. Symbols of a generation that refuses to be silenced. Symbols of a revolution that refuses to die. Asterisk, they are teaching Africa a lesson that Sankara once preached. He who feeds you controls you. Asterisk, and now they are choosing to feed themselves economically, militarily, politically. Asterisk. This is a dangerous road. They know it. History shows what happens to African leaders who dare to stand tall. From Lumumba to Sankara to Gaddafi. Asterisk, but despite that risk, they move forward because they believe, as do millions, that Africa deserves better. So when the world mocks them, they don't flinch. Asterisk, when ECOWAS threatens them, they don't blink. When the media slanders them, they don't stop because they're not leading for foreign cameras. They're leading for their people. Asterisk, and now the youth of Africa are listening. They're watching 3 leaders walk where others feared to tread, and they are asking themselves a powerful question. Asterisk, if they can rise, why can't we? Asterisk, this is not just a Sahel story. This is an African story, and it's only just beginning. The youth are awake. Traoré's call sparks a continental movement, asterisk, across Africa. A fire is spreading. Asterisk, but it's not one of destruction. It's a fire of awakening, a fire of purpose, a fire lit by a generation that refuses to inherit a broken system. Asterisk, this is not just a political shift. It is a revolution of the mind. And at the heart of it stands a figure who has become more than just a president. He's become a symbol of resistance, renewal, and rebirth. Ibrahim Traoré. Asterisk, in his speeches, he doesn't speak like a politician. Asterisk, he speaks like a brother, like one of the youth, like a voice that's been ignored for far too long. Asterisk, and now, that voice is echoing in classrooms, buzzing through markets, filling city streets, and spreading across social media platforms from Lagos to Kigali, from Dakar to Nairobi. Asterisk, everywhere. Young Africans are waking up and asking, asterisk, why should we wait for change when we can be the change? This is not a movement driven by elite leaders in suits. This is driven by students, farmers, tech innovators, street vendors, artists, and activists, those who have been silenced and underestimated for decades. Asterisk, they're tired of broken promises. Asterisk, they're tired of watching their countries remain rich in resources but poor in dignity. Asterisk, they're tired of seeing presidents shake hands abroad while their people suffer at home. Asterisk, and now they are organizing. Asterisk, online, on the ground, in music, in art, in protests, in education. Asterisk, they are forming community schools, building local apps, reclaiming stolen history, and demanding a place at the table. This movement isn't about one man, but Traoré has given it a spark, a sense of possibility. Asterisk, he showed them what it looks like to stand up, even when the world wants you to sit down. Asterisk, he showed them that you don't need to be old to be wise. You just need to be brave. Asterisk, he has challenged an entire continent to believe in itself again. Asterisk, in a recent message, he said, asterisk, the real power of Africa lies not in our gold, not in our oil, but in our youth. If we awaken that power, no empire can stop us. And now, that awakening is happening. From universities where students are studying Sankara and Ninguruma, asterisk, to remote villages where kids are learning to code and farm sustainably, asterisk, to hip-hop, tracks laced with messages of resistance, asterisk, to women in grassroots collectives rewriting the rules of economics. Africa's youth are not waiting anymore. They're reclaiming their stories. Asterisk, they're owning their identity. They're building what colonizers tried to destroy. But this is not easy. Asterisk, there are challenges: repression, unemployment, propaganda, surveillance. Asterisk, there are systems designed to keep them passive, quiet, and afraid. But something has changed. They are no longer afraid. Asterisk, and once the youth of a continent lose fear, they become unstoppable. The old guard may try to silence them, but you cannot silence an idea whose time has come. You cannot stop a wave whose tide is rising. And right now, Africa's youth are the tide. Asterisk, they are not just marching in the streets. They are marching toward the future. Asterisk, and in their chants, you hear one name again and again. Not as a savior, but as a signal. A signal that says, asterisk, if Traoré can rise, so can we. The youth are not waiting for permission. They are taking back their future, and they are doing it with books, phones, seeds, and fire in their hearts. Asterisk, this is no longer the Africa of silence. This is the Africa of movement, and that movement is only just beginning. Africa is not for sale. Traoré leads the charge for economic independence. There is a storm brewing in the heart of Africa. But this is not a storm of chaos. It is a storm of liberation. For decades, Africa has been the richest continent in natural resources, yet its people have remained among the poorest. Gold, uranium, cobalt, oil, cocoa, lithium. The world runs on African wealth, but that wealth has never belonged to Africans. Today, that is changing. At the forefront of this transformation stands Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the 36-year-old leader of Burkina Faso, a man who has shaken the global order by simply saying what others fear to utter. Africa is not for sale. With those words, he drew a red line in the sand, a line that divides the era of exploitation from the dawn of sovereignty. In Burkina Faso, Traoré is tearing up the old contracts, the ones written in foreign boardrooms, signed by compromised leaders, and enforced by international institutions that have kept Africa in debt and dependence. He is nationalizing mines. He is demanding fair trade. He is calling out the multinational corporations that have drained Africa's riches while leaving behind poverty, pollution, and political instability. And most importantly, he is inspiring others to do the same. From Mali to Niger, from Chad to Guinea, leaders are beginning to question the old deals, challenge Western dominance, and reclaim economic control. This is not about closing doors to the world. It is about opening Africa's doors to itself. For far too long, Africa's exports left the continent raw and unrefined, only to be sold back at 10 times the price. Now, the message is clear. Africa will no longer be just a supplier. It will be a producer, a trader, a power. The CFA franc, controlled from Paris, is now under serious threat as countries explore creating independent currencies that reflect African realities, not European interests. Local industries are being prioritized. African-owned banks and fintech startups are rising. Farmers are organizing into cooperatives, reclaiming land and food sovereignty. Youth are creating technology not to serve Silicon Valley, but to solve African problems. This is not a dream. It is happening. But with bold moves come powerful enemies. Foreign investors are fleeing. Sanctions are being imposed. Media headlines are attacking these leaders, painting them as dictators and radicals. Why? Because they dared to say, we will not be exploited anymore. Because they dared to put Africa first. Traoré knows the dangers. He knows the history. He knows what happened to leaders like Thomas Sankara, who also tried to free his country from foreign debt and dependency. He knows what happened to Patrice Lumumba when he tried to nationalize Congo's resources. He knows what happened to Muammar Gaddafi when he spoke of a United States of Africa with a gold-backed dinar. And still, he moved forward because he knows that the price of silence is far greater than the price of resistance, and this time, he is not alone. This is no longer the age of isolated revolutions. This is a continental uprising of economic consciousness. Ordinary. Africans are realizing that foreign aid often comes with hidden chains, that loans from the IMF are not generosity, they are leverage, that real power lies not in begging for development, but building it ourselves. Across the continent, new voices are rising, voices saying, we will build our roads, our schools, our hospitals, we will mine our minerals, process our crops, own our banks, We will no longer sell our future for crumbs. The winds of change are not coming. They are here, and they carry one message. Africa is not poor. Africa is being looted. And the looting ends now. Ibrahim Traoré is not just leading a government. He is leading an awakening, an economic revolution that will define the next century. One where Africa is not a playground for the powerful, but a force to be reckoned with. And if that revolution succeeds, the world will never see Africa the same again. No more foreign troops. Traoré stand for African military independence * for decades. Africa has relied on foreign soldiers to protect its lands. * They came with flags of peace, with promises of stability, with missions labeled as humanitarian. * But after all these years, Africa is still fighting, still bleeding, still vulnerable. * And now, a new voice is rising from the Sahel, declaring boldly, no more foreign troops. That voice belongs to Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the revolutionary leader of Burkina Faso, and the face of a new era in African defense. To some, his decision to expel French troops and reject foreign military bases was unthinkable. To his people, it was long overdue. Traoré didn't just remove soldiers, he reclaimed sovereignty. He ended an arrangement that many believe kept Africa dependent, exposed and infiltrated by those who benefited from its weakness. But Traoré's vision goes beyond just saying no. It's about building an Africa that can defend itself, because a continent that cannot protect its borders, its resources, and its people is a continent still in chains. And so, a new strategy is unfolding in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. The foundations of a united African military force are being laid, not with foreign blueprints, not with instructions from Europe or America, but from African soil, by African minds, with African hands. This movement is about African soldiers defending African land, not under foreign flags but under the banner of their people. Joint military exercises between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are increasing. Intelligence is being shared. Borders are being fortified. Strategies are being redefined. The goal is not war. The goal is security through self-reliance. Traoré understands a fundamental truth. You cannot be free if you cannot defend yourself. And this message is resonating far beyond the Sahel. In the Congo, in Ethiopia, in Sudan. In Central Africa, people are watching. They are realizing that the promise of peace from the outside often comes with a price. Your dignity, your sovereignty, your silence. Across the continent, African military academies are being rebuilt. Young officers are being trained not just in combat, but in patriotism. Not just in tactics, but in ideology. Because Traoré believes Africa doesn't just need more soldiers, it needs protectors who understand the mission to serve the people, not foreign masters. In a recent address, he said, "We will not trade our security for subservience. We will not allow our nations to be battlefields for foreign wars. We will defend our soil with our soul." This is more than strategy. It is philosophy. It is identity. It is liberation. And yes, there are risks. Foreign governments are alarmed. They fear the loss of strategic outposts, resource access, and influence. Propaganda machines have labeled Traoré a rebel, a danger, even a threat to regional peace. But the people see the truth. They see a man who's willing to die for his country's dignity. A leader who sleeps among soldiers, who walks the front lines, who speaks the language of sacrifice. They are not just following him. They are joining him. Asterisk civilians are volunteering. Local militias are forming. Communities are organizing watch units. Young Africans are choosing to stay, to fight, to protect, to serve. This is not about building armies. This is about building a new mindset that Africa will no longer be guarded by outsiders with hidden agendas. Asterisk. This is about healing the wounds of colonization, not just economically, but militarily, because Africa is tired of being a chessboard. It's ready to become a fortress. Asterisk. And in this fortress, Traoré is one of the architects. The days of begging for military support are ending. The days of renting freedom to the highest bidder are over. Asterisk. Now begins the age of African defense. Built by Africans, for Africans. Asterisk. The world may not be ready for this shift, but Africa is. And it starts with one powerful truth echoing from the Sahel. Asterisk. We will protect our land, no matter the cost. Reclaiming the African story, Traoré fights the media war for truth. In today's world, war is not only fought with guns. It's fought with words, with headlines, with images, with narratives that shape what people believe, what nations fear, and what the world sees. Asterisk. And for far too long, Africa has been losing that war. Asterisk. The continent's stories have been written by outsiders, often by those who do not understand, and sometimes by those who do not want to understand. Asterisk. Corruption, poverty, war, disease. Asterisk. Those are the headlines the world sees. Asterisk. But where are the stories of innovation, of resistance, of unity, of rising voices? Buried, erased, twisted. But now a shift is happening. And at the heart of that shift stands Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a leader not just fighting for territory, but fighting to reclaim the African narrative. Asterisk. Because Traoré understands something most leaders ignore. Asterisk. If you don't control your story, someone else will write your shame. Asterisk. In every international newspaper, every Western channel, every political magazine, Traoré is portrayed as anti-democratic, extremist, dangerous. But in Ouagadougou, in Bamako, in Niamey, the people call him something very different. Our voice, our pride, our hope. And this disconnect is not accidental. It is deliberate. Asterisk. Because the most powerful weapon used against Africa has never been the gun, it has been the lie. Asterisk. The lie that Africa cannot govern itself. The lie that resistance is terrorism. The lie that dependency is development. The lie that freedom is dangerous. And now, Traoré is calling it out. Asterisk. In a bold move, Burkina Faso has started building its own state media infrastructure, strengthening community radio, supporting youth journalism, and encouraging Pan-African media coalitions to broadcast the truth. Asterisk. No more filtered interviews. No more Western narration of African resistance. Asterisk. Instead, raw, direct, unfiltered voices from the people. Asterisk. Traoré is urging Africans to stop consuming propaganda and start producing perspective. Asterisk. He's supporting the creation of local podcasts, digital news platforms, mobile video networks, and regional collaborations between independent journalists. Asterisk. Because this is not just about news. It's about dignity. It's about letting the world know that Africa is not begging, it's building. Asterisk. Not falling apart, but coming together. Asterisk. In his recent statement, Traoré said, asterisk. Africa doesn't need a voice. Africa has millions. What we need is a platform and the courage to speak for ourselves. And that courage is growing. Across the continent, young African journalists are rising, brave, unafraid, rooted in truth. Asterisk. They're exposing corruption not just in their countries, but in the foreign institutions pulling the strings. Asterisk. They're uncovering deals that sell off resources for cheap. Asterisk, they're highlighting rural successes, female-led innovation, youth-led cooperatives, and indigenous solutions. They're shifting the lens. And the world is beginning to notice. Traoré or ECOWAS is also pushing for a digital Pan-African news network, free from foreign investors, free from colonial influence, run entirely by Africans. For Africans. One that reaches the rural farmer, the urban student, the nomadic herder, the startup founder. One that tells the story not of what Africa was, but of what Africa is becoming. Because this war, the war of perception, is just as important as the war for resources or security. Traoré or ECOWAS knows that if Africa wins this war, everything changes. Investment changes. Partnerships change. Identity changes. Power shifts. Because once Africans believe in their own story, the world has no choice but to listen. And for the first time in decades, Africa is speaking, with boldness, with clarity, with pride. This is not about censorship. It's about ownership. The African story must belong to Africans, not to the colonizers, not to the analysts, not to the exploiters. Not to the invaders, but to the children of the soil, and with leaders like Traoré at the helm, the days of narrative colonization are coming to an end, because now the message is clear. We will tell our own story, and this time the world will hear it.